What is going on? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video at hand, and today I have a question for you guys. Do you remember the Hyperscan, Mattel's failed game console that came out during the 7th generation, where it was all about combining video games and trading cards together? This console, which lasted from 2006 to 2007, was, believe it or not, a 7th gen game console which came around back when the Nintendo Wii and the PlayStation 3 were brand new game consoles. However, for Mattel, it wouldn't last because the console had a lot of issues with both its performance, its popularity, along with some other things mixed in here and there, and it just did not work out. Now, I do own a Hyperscan myself, and I own the complete set for the Hyperscan. Now, of course, there are some things that I want to take a look into closer detail about the game console and share it along with you guys as well. So, without further ado, let's take a closer look at Mattel's failed 7th generation attempt with the Hyperscan right after the intro. So back in 2006 is when Mattel would release the Hyperscan. Believe it or not, the Hyperscan would not be Mattel's first game console put onto the market. That honor goes to Intellivision. Believe it or not, Mattel was responsible for the Intellivision back when it was a thing. And of course, before Intellivision would later become its own brand, separated from Mattel. The Hyperscan was a relatively interesting game console which came out around the time back when the Nintendo Wii and the PlayStation 3 were becoming a thing onto the market for consumers to enjoy. Now, with the Hyperscan, it allowed for gamers and players alike to be able to use trading cards that would come with the games, and it would allow you to use different things such as different abilities, power-ups, select your character. And what was really cool about these cards was that you would scan these cards onto the game console, and the game console would try to detect these cards, and it would implement whatever you're using these cards for into the game. And also, when you would scan the cards, it would allow you to save your stats that you've earned in-game back onto the card. It was a very interesting concept for the game console itself. Now, of course, with these games that came out for the Hyperscan, you could also have the option to purchase booster packs. These booster packs were just like other trading card packs that you would buy for Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, but you would be using these cards for in-game as well to allow you to get more abilities and more features that you would be able to get not only from the cards that you would get whenever you would purchase a game for your Hyperscan, but it would allow you to have more features for the console itself. In other words, it was kind of like its own form of DLC for these games. It was a very interesting concept brought by Mattel, but unfortunately, there were a lot of things that did not work out in Mattel's favor with the console. Sadly, when it came to Mattel's 7th gen entry with its own game console, the Hyperscan, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. The console came with a host of problems when it came to poor marketing, performance, along with other issues. When it came to marketing, a lot of people thought that this console was essentially a toy trying to replicate a game console, kind of like VTech's V-Smile. The console was also very heavily marketed on Cartoon Network, a channel that was focused on its primary audience being children. Of course, with the Hyperscan, a lot of its games were focused on children, preteens, and younger teens with games such as X-Men. And of course, it didn't help with the fact that this console was made by Mattel, a toy company that's primarily known for Hot Wheels, Barbie, and many other toy lines. And in one of its exclusive games, Spider-Man was a Toys R Us exclusive, only adding more fuel to the fire that this console is essentially a toy trying to be a game console. And of course, with the Hyperscan, it had a host of many performance issues. A lot of times when you would try to scan the card through its card reader with the console, you would have to try multiple times because simply it would not read the card, causing a lot of frustration to users. And with the console, it had horrendous loading times with its games, where sometimes it would be like 15 to 30 seconds between going to the main menu, to the character select screen, then from the select screen, then to the match, then to your results screen, and then back to the main menu. It was essentially a very horrific time for the user. And when the games were also being played, the graphics were not good at all. After all, this was during the 7th generation, where it was the industry standard to have 1080p graphics with your games, with the exception of the Nintendo Wii. The graphics were very similar to Flash games that you would find on the internet back during the 2000s, and it was very clear that these were not the best graphics for 2006 to 2007. At one point, as Mattel was ready to discontinue the Hyperscan, I remember when I would see these things in the clearance section at Walmart, where you could buy a brand new Hyperscan for $10, a controller for $5, games for $2.50, along with booster packs for also $2.50. And of course, going back to marketing, you would never find a Hyperscan in the video game section. You wouldn't see it next to the Wii or the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 3. You would always have to go to the toy aisle to find a Hyperscan to purchase. So many things that unfortunately hurt the console in the long run. Now, I'm sure some of you guys may remember that at some point I did say that I did purchase a Hyperscan, and I'm sure some of you may be wondering, why on earth did I decide to purchase one of these monstrosities? Now, of course, I own two different Hyperscans. This is my one that's brand new in the box. Then I've got one that is completely opened and it's just out on display on one of my shelves. So I will tell you why I decided to purchase one of these pseudo game consoles that's actually a toy. Well, I decided to purchase it for a few reasons. The first reason is, I don't know if you guys ever saw the episode of The Angry Video Game Nerd where he decided to review the Hyperscan. And in my opinion, I kind of thought, if the Angry Video Game Nerd is reviewing the Hyperscan, which this man basically reviews legitimate game consoles. Like, you don't see this guy reviewing like the V-Smile. And I think if he's reviewing the Hyperscan, that's already kind of working in my favor when it comes to collecting for the console. Keep in mind, the Hyperscan still had the ESRB rating on their games, which again, if you were to buy a game from a toy console, right, such as V-Smile, I'm sorry I keep using that as an example, but that's really the only example that I can think of at the top of my head. The ESRB put ratings on Hyperscan games, meaning that they did recognize these as actual video games. So between the ESRB and the Angry Video Game Nerd, that kind of solidified to me to basically say, okay, this is a legitimate enough game console to add to my collection. Also, yes, I am essentially aware that none of these games on this console are really worth playing, to be honest. But I decided to pick it up was because at the time, I kind of was feeling a little nostalgic about things from 2006. And of course, this is a product that came out during 2006, so I wanted to add it to the game collection. Also, as well, I wanted to get into completing sets, being a completionist with my game room, where essentially I would try to finish the library for as many game consoles as I could. And essentially with the Hyperscan, there's only 5 games made for the console, so pretty easy compared to PS2 that has 1,800 games, or Dreamcast, which has almost 250 games, or other game consoles with bigger libraries. We're dealing with a console that only has 5 games on it. And I remember I purchased all 5 of those games for about $100 online, and I used to joke with a lot of people back when I got my Hyperscan, try to name a game console that you can buy the entire library of games for $100. You just can't. So I was very happy when I completed the set. It was just because I could truthfully say I completed my first set. And I mean, it was cool. I don't really plan on playing the Hyperscan just simply because there's not really anything worth playing on the console itself. But I will say, for any of you that do feel bold enough to even consider collecting for this contraption of a game console, I do have a collector's guide that you guys can check out right here, where I do talk about a lot of detail when it comes to collecting the games, a little bit of some history of the console that I've already talked about in this video, along with some other things that are more focused on the collecting aspect. But yes, those are a few reasons as to why I decided to buy this failed 7th generation toy-based game console. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out my video. Please be sure to check out these videos here, and here. After all, I post a lot of content when it comes to game collecting tips, and other video game related subjects. So be sure to keep an eye out every Monday and Friday where I upload consistently, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.